Today we're going to talk about credit reports. We're going to start with vocabulary so we can follow along as we go. We're going to start with a borrower. A borrower is someone who borrows money. You would be a borrower if you borrow money to buy a house or a car. Next is our credit history. Once you have made a purchase, you will have a credit history. This is a record of financial performance reflected by a credit report. It's our next vocabulary word. A credit report is a summary of financial history. This includes whether payments are made on time, how much debt a person has, and whether or not they have a history of repaying their debt. Last vocabulary word is lender. A lender is someone who is going to loan money to the borrower. Something to keep in mind is that negative credit, which will show on your credit report, take 7 years to come off your credit report. When establishing your credit history, you must keep these things in mind. Positive credit includes paying your bills on time, borrowing money that you can repay, and repaying it on time. Then you also have to establish your credit history. This means you must acquire some debt at some point, such as a loan. This is to establish your history. By paying this loan off on time, you will have positive credit. Negative credit events include borrowing more money than you can repay, or making late payments. These get reported to our credit agency. So now let's talk about credit scores and credit reports. Credit reports and scores are important because showing a positive history allows consumers to borrow money at lower interest rates. Credit reports and credit scores are important to lenders because lenders might choose not to extend credit to a consumer with a negative credit history. Credit scores typically have a range from 300 to 800, with a higher value indicating a positive credit history. Remember, those negative credit actions are usually reflected on a credit report for at least 7 years. So let's take a look at some of these. On this first problem, we're going to identify 2 borrowers most likely to be offered a loan if the decision was based solely on their credit scores. So the first thing we're going to do is list our credit scores from highest to lowest. Barnes has 660, McMahon has 750, Rodriguez is at 785, and Simmons is at 810. We all know 810 is the highest credit score, so we're going to start there and work our way down. 785, 750, and 660. Now we want to find our 2 best credit scores. These are our highest, right here. So now we know 710 and 785 are our 2 highest scores. That means those 2 individuals will most likely be offered that loan. Who is that? That would be K. Simmons and F. Rodriguez. All right, now let's look at the other side. Let's look at those credit actions. There's positive actions and negative actions. We want to explain the effect of the borrower's actions on their credit score. How long will any negative credit actions be reflected on the credit report? Mr. Gibson paid credit card bill late 3 months in a row, and T. Wilson repaid an entire car loan payment early. So what happens when payments are made late? If we think about that, late is a negative word, makes it a negative action. So that becomes a negative action on your credit report. What happens when loans are paid early or even on time? Early, frequently, is a positive, and on time is definitely a positive. We all want to be on time to school, on time paying our bills. So we're going to have a positive action on our credit report. Now, that negative action that we had, paying our bills late, how long is that going to stay on our credit report? Well, that takes 7 years to fall off, meaning for 7 years, everyone will be able to see when they run Mr. Gibson's credit that he made 3 late credit card payments.